In most normal societies, we try to actually stop crime from happening. However, in blue cities and states like California, they're actually trying to say it's illegal to investigate waste, fraud, and abuse. And of course, this is what we're going to see being discussed with Cain and Nick Shirley over here on Fox News. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
The fraud fallout continues. You might remember viral videos from Nick Shirley, the independent journalist who helped put a spotlight on fraud nationwide, including California's hospice center fraud. Last week, California Attorney General Rob Bonta took a victory lap, bragging about his state cracking down on massive fraud schemes in Los Angeles.
Operation Skip Trace uncovered and ended a hospice fraud scheme that defrauded Medi-Cal of $267 million. So just to be clear, $250 million. Over. Funds that are paid for by Californian taxpayers, funds that are meant to provide care to Californians in need. It is unacceptable, it is illegal, and we will not stand for it.
Too little, too late, Mr. Attorney General. Look, we're all for stopping fraud, but at the same time, his wife, Democrat Assemblywoman Mia Bonta, is pushing a bill critics say could make it harder to expose fraud. It's called the Privacy for Immigration Support Service Providers. Critics are calling it, though, the Stop Nick Shirley Act. What would it do? Well, it would let eligible individuals keep their home addresses confidential. It would also ban the sharing of photos or personal information that could lead to any type of harassment or harm online. And it allows victims to seek $4,000 in damages, and it subjects the violators to fines of up to $10,000 or even a year in jail if you are found in violation of the Privacy for Immigration Support Service Providers. Critics say, though, it could complicate the on-the-ground investigations, right as California is already dealing with massive fraud scandals. And a lot of those red flags were brought to light because people actually went out and looked. Fox News' William LaJeunesse visited a California home health center where the credentials of an 87-year-old doctor were used to bill for 29,000 non-existent patients. Fox News Digital uncovered $3.5 billion in taxpayer losses, over 1,900 hospice providers. That's more than 36 states combined. There were 112 of them at one location, one commercial building, and the average stay in hospice was over 3 months. All right, joining us now is independent journalist Nick Shirley. Nick, it's good to see you again. What do you think? Is this the Stop Nick Shirley Act in California?
Yeah, they're trying to make it so citizen journalists or just average Americans who are going about seeing what's happening inside their community, they're trying to scare them from talking about potential fraud taking place inside of these communities. And think about it. They're literally willing to impose a $10,000 fine or imprisonment if you go and seek to find out the truth about a location that could potentially be fraudulent inside your own neighborhood.
Nick, let's just kind of play out that hypothetical. So whether you were in Minnesota, you also went to California, you would go up to the Quality Leering Center, a clearly fake daycare in Minnesota. There's your shirt. Yes, always on. And you would attempt to see if there's any children inside, right? And somebody comes out and talks to you. And now that person who's there possibly committing fraud could file a complaint in California that Nick Shirley is harassing me online, right? That's how it would work in effect, and then you would either see a year in jail or a $10,000 fine?
Correct. That's what it sounds like. And it sucks because inside these states like Minnesota and California, they've been proven to let fraud take place inside these immigrant communities. You had the Somalians in Minnesota and the Armenians in California, and they're trying to protect these people who are committing this fraud. They're stealing millions upon millions of dollars, and it just makes you wonder who their donors are. Who are their donors? Because why would they create this bill to then try and make it harder to expose fraud?
Yeah, that's a great question. Who is funding Mia Bonta's campaigns? Why would she be pushing this bill? Why would she be so threatened by your journalism? Those are actually great questions that we'll do our best to look into. I know you will as well, Nick, because you do great work out there, and we encourage you to keep it up. Thank you. Nick Shirley.
That is exactly it. You have to sit here and wonder, why in the world is all this fraud allowed to go on in these blue cities and states? And Nick Shirley pretty much puts his finger right on it, right? It's all about the donations. It's all about the ruling political party, okay? You have to find a way to get the tax dollars away from your average citizen and then into the pockets of the prevailing political class. And how do they do that? Oh, they allow the money to be spread around through all of these NGOs, through all of these Medicaid funds, through all these child care funds, through all of these autism center funds. And then once the fraudsters have that money, they're able to donate back into the political party of their choosing. And then, of course, the political party greases the wheels and allows this to keep going. We pretty much saw as much from the testimony in Minnesota last month. Okay, now all of this is allegedly at this point in time because there have been no convictions on that front, but the fraud is absolutely real. And what makes this hilarious is that, of course, when it was exposed in California, what was the first reaction? It was the same thing that happened in Minnesota. It was to go after Nick Shirley. It was to go after the people that were actually uncovering the fraud, not to necessarily go after the fraudsters themselves. However, the news story broke so big that even California had to go after and uncover $250 million in fraud that was being perpetrated upon the taxpayers, okay? But now you have the wife of the DA who's out there actually prosecuting these crimes saying, you know what? We're going to pass new legislation that gives extra privacy, extra protection against harassment from people like Nick Shirley, okay? Because heaven forbid when the government isn't doing their job, that an independent journalist or private investigator or even a private citizen can't go out and look into it. Yeah, this is crazy stuff, especially considering that, yes, California already has laws against harassment. They already have laws about protecting people's privacy, okay? So why this additional layer? And of course, the answer becomes very clear: to stop people like Nick Shirley from uncovering the fraud, because California was very happy to let all of this stuff go on without looking into it. And not until a spotlight was shown right on it were they forced to act. And as I said before, remember the initial response, because what's the first thing that Gavin Newsom's account did? Oh, they set up this meme, this AI-generated meme. Hey, can I see your kids? Nick Shirley trying to be a creepy investigator into the fraud that is taking place. Yeah, so don't focus on the fraud. Don't focus on the waste and the abuse. Focus on the guy uncovering it. Okay, but of course, the left is always willing to turn a blind eye to this and even go softball on the criminals, as we just saw in Minnesota. Yes, you have this fraud suspect, Abdurrashid Ismail Saeed, who stole $11 million in Medicaid funds. And then what does he do? He skips the country because the judge let him out on bail. So he posts his bond and then takes off and apparently just gets away with it, right? $11 million from the taxpayers of America straight into his pockets. So good job, Democrats. You're really trying to protect us from the criminals from other nations, okay? And we're going to see this play out time and time again because the Democrats don't really care about law and order, and they definitely don't care about waste, fraud, and abuse. And they're going to try everything they can to stop people from even investigating it now in these places like California. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.